Today, I want to go around and give you a detailed review of a 1971 Cessna 172L model. We're going to take a little bit of time and we're going to walk through all the different features of this plane. One of the things is that you're going to see it looks like a much newer model, and you're going to find that there's some unique upgrades and features you won't find in other 172s. Now, since this plane is for sale, I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about specifics that are unique to this particular plane, but it's all going to be very informative. The plane is ADS-B compliant, and not only has the outside been completely redone, but also the interior, as well as the panel, which has been completely upgraded with digital avionics, and even has an autopilot and a Garmin GPS. We are going to take a look at the entire exterior, interior, panel, some different features, go around the engine compartment, and then we're going to do a full flight video. One of the things about the flight video is I'm going to give you a sneak peek. I'm going to show you just how easy this plane is to control. Typically on steep turns, you need to have control input from all of the control surfaces. But what we're going to do is we're going to maintain a steep turn without touching the yoke. That is going to be an excellent example of just how beautiful the flight characteristics are on this plane. One fun little fact that you may not know is that the flight endurance record is held by two guys who actually flew one of the very first models of 172. And you may not believe it, but they stayed in the air for an astounding 64 days straight and flew over 150,000 miles without a single touchdown. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about that, we do have an article below that you can, or a link to the article down in the description below, so that you can read all about that amazing feat. The Cessna 172 is the most produced and most successful aircraft in history. There are over 43,000 of them. You can carry 4 people. You can fly at 13,100 feet. It's got great slow flight characteristics. You basically can land it anywhere, take off from just about any field, any grass strip, anywhere. So it's super fun to be able to take out to the backcountry. It is stable, it's fun to fly, you've got good visibility. These models do come with the rear windows so that you can see all the way around you. One of the nice things is that if you've been out and you've been flying larger, more complex airplanes, you're really going to appreciate coming back into something like a 172, because these 172s are so easy to fly, they're super relaxing. They have a very low pilot workload, and they're just aerodynamically safe and just made to just fly themselves. This particular 172 is one of the nicest looking available. It is the nicely equipped Skyhawk version, which basically means that it is a bit faster, has a little bit more performance than the standard 172. The 172L and M model are the most popular models, and one of the reasons for that is because it has a Lycoming 0320 E2D engine. Now these engines, if they're maintained, will easily go over 3,000 hours without a major overhaul, and even with just having standard routine maintenance on them. They're very fuel efficient as well. This particular plane has all logs since new. There's no accident history. We have a title report which shows that it's never been registered to a flight school. It has been hangared, and we just had a detailed annual done on it, so fresh annual on it as well. It's IFR current, and it flies beautifully, which you're going to see later on in the flight video. So what are one of the main differences between the L and the M models? The M model actually has curved wingtips, whereas on this model, it's got a more flattened edge on the wingtips, so one of the ways that you can kind of see the difference between those two models. So taking a look at the paint scheme on this, it's a little bit of a cloudy day. The sun's just trying to peek out, but you can see that it's a 3-color paint scheme, and it is like new condition. It was done recently and fully stripped, repainted. The cost of something like this is easily $15,000 to $18,000. I want to show you these steps. There's one here on the strut, as well as one down there on the fuselage, which allows you to fill the tanks very easily, fuel up if you don't have a ladder available, And then one of the other things is this little bracket here. I'm going to show you that actually holds the door open when you get in and out. So you put that in there and it clips right into place so you don't have to worry about the wind. Most four-cylinder Lycoming engines are really good. I think there are actually two Lycoming engines that are extremely well built and last a long time, even possibly going close to twice their TBO time. One is the IO360 L2A model, which is a 180 horsepower parallel valve four-cylinder that was used in the newer Cessna 172s built after 1997. The other one is this one. The Lycoming 0320 E2D is 150 horsepower and was used in the Cessna L and M models. It is a low compression, parallel valve engine with a heavier crankcase. This particular engine has great compression. All were in the mid-70s on a cold check. This engine also has all Millennium cylinders and the oil filter adapter STC. The carburetor is behind the oil pan on this engine, which helps keep it warm and could be one of the reasons carb ice is very rare in these models. As you can see, there's plenty of space with not too much under the cowling, makes it very easy to maintain. So taking a look at the left side of the panel here, we've obviously got your standard 6-pack layout. One of the nice things about this is that it does have the airspeed indicator adjustment up here so that you can spin that around and get your true airspeed using the temperature controls, or the temperature from, which is actually way up in the corner over here if you can see that. So it's got your outside air temperature and you use that to set your true airspeed off of here. If you go and look at this turn coordinator, it's a little bit different than your standard turn coordinator, and the reason for that is that it's got these extra options on here because it actually controls a Century 1 autopilot system, which you can find the switch down here. But it is an all-electric system with actually costing $8,600 just for the unit alone, not considering installation costs, so a very handy thing to have. One of the other things that doesn't come standard with these is this exhaust gas temperature gauge. So the EGT gauge is very nice to have if you're wanting to lean it out for longer flights, and that's very easy to see there right in front of the main pilot seat. You've got your RPM gauge, obviously, and your tach down there. Okay, so going over here, we have our Vor Localizer Indicators. The bottom one here is a KI201C, and then the top one is actually a glide slope as well with the KI209. Very important to have if you want to do IFR flights. Other benefit is that if you wanted to use this for some instrument training, you can also do that, as well as use it for your check ride. It's got all of the equipment necessary for that. When we go into the center panel here, we have at the top a PMA 8000B. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail about the functions and features while we're in flight. The GPS is a 496 Garmin GPS, and that is connected to antenna, which is XM weather capable. We do have down here the Mac 1700 Navcoms. They are digital, and it's kind of a nice feature. They were the digital replacement of the King KX, the old button, the knob style radios, but these actually have memory settings, so you can put your most common airports and like your home airport frequencies in there, and you don't have to dial it up every time. You can actually select them from the memory settings. Just to kind of round out the rest of the panel here, we do have the Carb Heat, obviously your throttle and your mixture. I'm going to turn this here so you can see your flap is here. So your flap indicator is over here, so you can see what your settings are, 10, 20, 30, and 40 degree flaps. You've got your your heater for the interior, your cabin heat, and that works very well. If we go up to the rest of the panel, we have our left and right fuel gauge, your oil pressure, oil temperature, amp meter, and a Narco AT155 updated transponder as well. So taking a look at these seats a little bit closer, One of the nice things about this particular one is how it adjusts. So you can see it's extremely high right now. So anybody that's a little bit shorter, that's a big advantage, or has longer legs and needs more leg room. And that is done by twisting on, let me get the right one here, this, and that will lift up that seat or drop it way far down. And then we've got another one here that twists, and this twist allows you to recline the seat back further or lift it up, so lift it forward. And then finally, it's got the lever here that allows you to slide it forward and backward for getting in and out easily or adjusting to reach the pedals. Rear seats as well as the front are in extremely nice condition. It's been fully reupholstered, and they do have even the Skyhawk embroidery in their very clean condition. Rear seats do have the 3-point harness as well, so a nice safety feature there. You can see on the headliner that it is very clean. You've got your elevator trim wheel. You have your fuel selector gauge down here, and it does have left, right, and both, and then off as well. So you've got your microphone in here, a little bit older school style microphone for making your radio calls. But one of the nice things is you don't really have to use that because both of the yokes have a push to talk. So there's one here on the right hand yoke and the same one over here on the left. Very easy to access in flight, and it's very simple to push. One of the things I want to show you on here is the gauge over here. If you see that flag there, that is the gyro flag. So the nice thing about that is that if that's on, that means that your vacuum system is not operational, which obviously when the plane is not running, that's the case. But if it happens in flight, it's a very bright, noticeable indication that you've got an issue going on with your vacuum system. All right, let's go ahead and start it up now. So the key you can see is off. You've got the master switch on just right now just to have the audio going for us. And you can see the primer over there. And we're not going to go ahead and prime anything right now just because it's already been up and running. So the mixture needs to be full and rich. And then we'll get the throttle to about 1/8 of an inch. And then you just turn the key and start it up. All right, and as soon as it starts up, the first thing that you want to do is go over here to the oil pressure and make sure that that is up on the needle. And then the next thing is the oil temp, and keep an eye on that for when you're getting ready to do your run up. And then over here, as we talked about that gyro flag, you can see that that has gone away now since the vacuum system is up and operational. The next step of the process is to do our run up. So on this particular plane for the run up, we want to put the throttle at 1700. And then we need to switch the mags one at a time. And we're watching for an RPM drop of up to 150, but with a difference of only 50 between the two. And then you pull the carb heat as well, and make sure that that drops the RPMs down a little bit. Some of the specifications on this Cessna 172L, the gross weight of this plane is 2,300 pounds. The useful load is 995 pounds. Fuel capacity is 42 gallons or 252 pounds. And then the payload is 743 pounds. The ground run is 865 feet. And the maximum range is 655 miles. If we take a look at this PMA 8000B audio panel, this is an upgrade from the Garmin 340. It has multiple features in it that you won't find in the older versions. So you can see right now COM 1 and COM 2 are both active. So that's a nice feature because both the left and the right side, pilot and co-pilot, can have separate frequencies active and listening if you're monitoring ATC transmissions on center, but also want to check weather at an airport. That's kind of a nice feature for that. You've got your marker beacon there, so you can activate that as necessary, as well as you can plug in your phone and you can make radio calls or make phone calls through the audio panel. Another feature is if you push and hold the button, you can actually get the playback of the most recent transmission that was sent through, which helps if you're talking to ATC or what have you and you need to double check and make sure you remembered a clearance or wrote it down right. It's a very nice feature to be able to play back that most recent transmission on there.
One of the things I want to show you on this plane is the Garmin 496 that's installed in this. So this display is very handy. It shows you that we're about 31.5 miles away, and since we're kind of going away from it instead of towards it, then that's going to get a little bit further as we go. We have our flight timer, which is how long that the plane has been turned on at this point. If we were to turn and start going towards Wahpeton, it's going to tell us here how long it's going to take us there based on our current ground speed. So as you can see, our current ground speed right now is showing just over 120, 122 or so, 121. And if we look over here on our settings, try to zoom in to where you can see that we are running at about 2350 for RPM. And our airspeed over here, if I can get in there, is somewhere around 110. So we're getting set up on the steep turn here. You can see it's just over 30 degrees of the bank angle. We've got about 5,500 on our altitude. Our vertical speed is set once you get it trimmed out using the trim wheel there so that your vertical speed stays about the same. Then you can maintain your angle very easily using your rudder controls, and if you can see out the window there, you can see just how steep of an angle that is, and it is all being maintained and controlled using the rudder inputs at this point. A hands-free. Over 30-degree bank. Alright, as we're getting set up for landing here, we're going to start using some flaps. So our flap indicator, our flap switch is here and our indicator is here. One of the nice things is you can count to usually about 2 or 3 depending on how quickly you count, and that's about 10 degrees of flap so that you don't have to look directly at it continuously while you're getting your flap settings set up. Approach speed is about 80, slowing down.